What's up everyone and welcome back to Yellow Card Vanguard channel. It's the one and only Toku back again with another overExplained, this time for the premium format. And the deck that I'm currently repping is Thavas. So of all decks, why Thavas? Thavas hasn't really made a splash in any of the formats since his release in BBT 11, and Pursuit Assault doesn't exist either, so why? Well, what if I told you, regardless if you went first or second, you were favored to strike first? Let's take a deep dive into the ranks of Aquaforce. The first card we'll be talking about is One Who Surpasses the Storm, Thavas. My boy is a grade 3 unit from the Aquaforce clan. He comes equipped with Twin Drive and on placement generates an Axel marker. An Axel marker is an extra front row circle for you to put another attacker on. Compared to grade 3s in Force clans, Thavas is only 12k base, which means ideally you would like to hit grade 3 first. He has two effects, both very relevant to his package. Firstly, once per turn, on the Vanguard or the Rearguard circle, you can tap a Rearguard for cost to retire an opponent's Rearguard. If he's on the Rearguard circle himself, he can tap himself for the effect as well. The second effect activates on Vanguard circle. At the beginning of the battle phase, if 3 or more of your Rearguards are tapped, you can discard 1 to search for up to 1 grade 4 card and write it as stand. Then, that unit gains 10k and a bonus drive until end of turn. And then, at the end of the turn, you retire said unit and rewrite a grade 3 from Sola's Rest. This effect here, this effect is what makes Thavas a contender in premium format at the moment. Right now, the only grade 4 in Aquaforce is main deck Lambros, but what's important is the fact that you re-ride into a grade 3 from Soul. What happens when you don't have a grade 3 in Soul anymore? You can ride down to a grade 2 instead, and this is why Thavas will be relevant. Hit grade 3 first, you end your turn on grade 2 and your opponent can't stride. We run 4 copies because we want to ride one, and then we need to find a second copy for the rewrite as soon as possible after soul blasting the original. This hot VOD belongs to Marine General of Heavenly Silk, Lambros. Lambros is a grade 4 unit, also with Twin Drive to start things off. Lambros is also 15k base rather than 12k. Why is this important? This makes grade 1's boost for perfect number. Lambros comes equipped with 3 effects. A, while in hand, if you have a Vanguard with Thavas in the name, this card gets grade -1. Why is this relevant? Because it means you can call him as a rearguard at grade 3. Secondly, when placed on the Vanguard circle, you can choose any number of your rearguards to stand them. And lastly, the third effect. On attack, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 1. I'm going to emphasize that, soul blast 1, to choose a column and stand all of your rearguards in said column. Then, if your opponent is grade 3 or greater, said rearguards gain 5k. So, between these two cards, there's a very cute interaction which leads to the Thavas Strikes Now game plan that I prayed so much for. You can use Thavas' second skill to re-ride into Lambros from the deck, and then through Lambros' skill on attack to counterblast 1, soul blast 1, that soul you pay can be the Thavas Heart, which will then leave you with no grade 3 in soul for the re-ride, meaning you can ride down to a grade 2 instead. Entering the grade 2s, we've got 2 copies of a very familiar face, Tidal Assault. Tidal Assault is a long friend to the Aquaforce clan, a grade 2 unit from ye old days. Equipped with 9k power and has Intercept, which means you can move it from a front row rearguard circle to the Guardian circle for 5k shield value. Tidal Assault is most prominent for its costless restand effect. On the rear circle, once per turn after the battle that attacked the Vanguard, you can restand it but have it lose 5k power. At first glance, the 5k power debuff is very unattractive, but you only really care to bring out this boy when finishing the game with a GB6, GB7 Alexandro, having Alexandro's buff to negate the 5k debuff. So why only 2 copies? This deck surprisingly draws a heinous amount of cards, so the likelihood that we find 1 copy of Tidal Assault going into our Alexandro's turns are very high. Not to mention that Aquaforce comes equipped with one of the most rearguard-centric G-Guardians in Johannes to give resist as well. This is Coral Assault, staple of Aquaforce since its induction to the V format as well. Similar to most grade 2s in Axel clans, he boasts 9k power and 5k shield and also the ability to intercept. Coral Assault also has the first effect. During the battle that it attacks, if you have 4 or more other units in tap, Coral gains 15k. This is huge. His second effect says, at the end of your turn, if you've attacked 4 or more times this turn, you can soul him in to draw a card. So, a few things about Coral Assault to know. Most grade 3 Vanguards are 11, 12, or 13k base power. On an Axel 2 circle, Coral Assault is then 14k base, and with its first skill will hit 29k, which is not guardable by a single trigger. They would have to G-guard or use a grade 0 heal trigger to guard, so it's a very strong and early way to get damage in if need be. As for his second skill, it's just a naturally good way to convert attackers into hand. It's also not mandatory, so if you know you can probably keep it on board for another 29k attacker, you can do so as well. Next, we have 4 copies of Kelpie Rider Dennis. Dennis is just like every other grade 2, 9k power, 5k shield, intercept. But what he does have is a hard once per turn ability, which allows him to tap another rearguard, not himself, to call the top card of your deck and call it to rear. Dennis is important for the deck's game plan to reach that 3 tapped rearguard requirement for Thavas. But more importantly, he is a raw +1, and the more you can resolve Dennis, the more you can plus to board. Furthermore, nearly everything in the deck is a great call off of the top of the deck, save for your Overtrigger, your Draw Sentinels, or Stride crits. Hell, even the grade 3 Heal Guardians become viable attackers at a 10k body and 15k on an XL2. You run Dennis at 4 copies as he is an essential piece to the strategy, but also is a name that is tutored off of Kelpie Rider Nikki, a grade 1 in the deck to ensure consistent pluses. This is Pursuit Assault. Pursuit Assault is a figment of my imagination and doesn't really exist, and I need to let go of the past that accident was not my fault. In an alternate dimension, however, Pursuit Assault is a grade 2 unit in the Aquaforce clan that exists only as a promo in the Japanese version of the game and as a gas known as Copium in the English version. He has 9k power just like everyone else, but he comes with 2 effects that not only enables him as a strong attacker, but also a 1-card enabler alongside Thavas for a strategy. His first effect reads, for each of your extra rearguard circles, read, Axel circles, he gains 5k. Mind you, this is not only on your turn, and once you get to 2 or more Axel circles, he becomes a very bulky rearguard which continues to exert offensive pressure as he becomes harder to remove without effects. The second effect is what makes Pursuit Assault the savior of Thavas. Once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1 and rest 2 rearguards to draw 1. Why is this effect so good? Let's break it down into its basic molecules. This effect isn't linked to counterblasts, so if you were to be damage denied, you would still be able to perform said effect. Secondly, this rests any 2 rearguards, and Tap himself rests any 1. That's the 3 rearguards you need to stride into Lambros. The existence of Pursuit Assault increases the consistency greatly by not only drawing 1 on the turn it comes out, drawing 1 on the turn you stride into Lambros, but also making hand sculpting easier since you only need a Pursuit Assault rather than a Dennis and Nikki to make it. Bushiroad, please, I beg you, release Pursuit Assault. Into the grade 1 lineup, we run a full playset of Battle Siren Narissa. Narissa has 8k power, 10k shield, and the ability to boost. Narissa also comes with 2 very relevant abilities. The first, when tapped by another card's ability, you can Soul Blast 1 to restand her and gain 10k. Mind you, this doesn't state by your card's ability, so against certain matchups like Mega Colonies, G-Guard, Relish Lady, you can use this as well. Most likely though is that you'll be using Narissa after tapping it from Thavas, Dennis, or Pursuit Assault. If and only if you'll still have 3 tapped after using it. Do not make the mistake of restanding her if it will deny you Thavas' skill. That 10k boost is nothing compared to the tempo and the momentum gained from denying Stride and getting the triple drive off of Lambros. We also run 4 copies of Blue Wave Soldier Baragius. Armed with 8k power and 10k shield, just like every other grade 3 searcher from the V format, Baragios has a 5k buff condition, his being that you have 4 or more tapped rearguards, himself included, so if you were to attack with 2 columns and him on the second column, his effect would be live. The second effect is the standard on placement on Vanguard or Rear Circle. You can check the top 5 of your deck for a grade 3 card and filter for it. Compared to some other decks, Baragios is a lot more important to us. Since we look to Soul Blast our first grade 3, it's very important for us to find our second copy of Thavas. Our last grade 1 is Kelpie Rider Nikki. Nikki also has 8k and guards for 10k. But more importantly, Nikki has a very strong on Vanguard Circle placement ability to check the top 7 of your deck and add up to 1 Kelpie Rider Dennis, or Thavas and add it to hand and shuffle. This is a raw +1 if you hit, and there's 2 trains of thoughts on whether to use your starter skill to draw 1 first and check 7, or to check 7 then draw 1. A. If it's imperative that you find one of said pieces, you want to draw 1 first, then dig 7, as it effectively becomes a dig 8 for the piece you want, at the risk of losing the free +1 should you draw the only hit from the draw. B. If the plus is more important, then you would opt to check 7 first to reduce the chance of you ripping the card off the top, then you would take the draw. The downside being that, if said card is the 8th card in deck, you won't be finding it. Nikki's second effect is, on rear, you can rest himself and recycle a normal unit to the bottom of your deck to soul charge 1. What's important to note here is that sending a normal unit back to deck is part of the cost, so you do need a normal unit to send back as well in order to get a rested unit. Furthermore, the soul charge is mandatory, which makes the effect +/-0 to deck, and deck out is a real threat in this deck. So we are on the clock to win before this happens. Similarly, we do run 4 copies because this is our ideal grade 1 ride, but we also want copies on the rearguard circle to get the tap effect for Thavas' skill as well. Let's dive into the triggers. Starting with the heal triggers, we opt to run the grade 3 heal guardian. What a heal trigger is when you trigger this card offensively or defensively. If you have equal or more damage than your opponent, you can send a card from damage to drop, effectively healing a damage. Then a unit gains 10k power for the turn. Escudio Bubble Dragon. Let's break down this card. Firstly, it's a grade 3 unit with 10k power and twin drive, but only 15k shield. So why do we opt to run it? Its second effect really helps in our strategy. Remember that Lambros' Soul Blast effect is linked to a counterblast, and if we were to be counterblast denied, this grade 3 heal helps us get that counterblast we need. Furthermore, because it has a 10k attack stat, it's also a viable attacker into any grade 2. Thirdly, because it is a grade 3, it is searchable off of Varagios and usable as stride fodder in a pinch. If we don't have another Thavas to re-ride into, but we do have this is also a valid ride option. The first effect to play defensively isn't really needed, but it is a welcome one. We can choose to either give our Vanguard 10k or to neg a unit by 2 crit. Normally in the V format, we choose to give the Vanguard 10k, but in Premium, it's more worth considering giving the -2 crit instead, since overtriggers do exist. Our next trigger is Emerald Shield Pashal, a draw trigger sentinel. Pashal has a draw trigger icon, which means when revealed for your damage or drive check, you get to draw a card and also give a unit 10k power. Pashal, as a sentinel, has the ability that when placed on Guardian Circle, you can discard 1 to prevent a unit being hit for the battle. This deck has an abundance of hands, so we opt to use Pashal over the critical sentinel since we can pay for the perfect guard effect quite easily. Our next trigger is Direct Strike, Brave Shooter. We won 3 copies of this critical trigger, and what a critical trigger does is when triggered off of your drive check or damage check, one of your units gain an extra damage for the turn and one of your units gain 10k for the turn. It has 4k power and 15k shield. What Brave Shooter does is that at the cost of 1000 power, he has the ability GB1, which means Generation Break 1, or if you have at least 1 face-up unit in your G-zone. When your Vanguard attacks, you can pay the cost, put him into Soul, draw a card, and give your Vanguard 10k for the battle. Then we run 4 copies of Bumper Shooter, another critical trigger with also only 4k power and 15k shield. Most importantly, has the effect that in hand, that when you use this for the cost of paying stride, it can be treated as a grade 3. We run 4 copies of this to ensure that we'll always be able to stride when need be. Finally, our overtrigger of choice is the Stoikea overtrigger, Source Dragon Deity of Blessings, Bless Favor. What is an overtrigger? It is a grade 0 unit with 5k power, but also has the effect when triggered through drive or damage checks, removes itself from the game and the player draws 1, then the unit gains 100 million power until the end of turn. Furthermore, if revealed through a drive check, performs an additional effect. Bless Favor's additional effect is to draw an extra card, give a unit an extra critical for the turn, buff the front row 10k for the turn. Then, if your damage zone has more or equal cards than your opponent, you can also heal a card. Basically, activate every trigger effect in the game. Then our starter is just your standard V starter. The extra draw for our Nikki and Varagios filters is very Kino. Now, before we get into the G-Zone, I want to prevent this deck build too. Pursuit Assault doesn't exist in the English format, so we have to compromise. At very similar ratios, I've opted to replace Pursuit Assault for Terrific Coil Dragons and Nerissa's for Light Penguin Soldier. Terrific Coil is a grade 2 9k body with 5k shield and has 2 effects built into each other. A. On the rear, once per turn, when stood through any card's ability, Terrific Coil Dragon gains 5k for the turn, be it through its own skill or through Lambros' skill. Secondly, on attack, if it's the first battle of this turn, you can Soul Blast 1 to stand itself. This will also proc its first effect. Let's talk about why I'm considering Terrific Coil Dragon while we wait for Pursuit Assault to come out. If we were to be damage denied going into Lambros, Terrific Coil gives us a venue of Soul Blasting the Thavas if we don't have the Counterblast. Terrific Coil also acts as a large 14k body, at least somewhat comparable to Pursuit Assault with 1 XL. Then our alternate grade 1 is Light Penguin Soldier. Light Penguin Soldier has 8k power and 10k shield, and 2 abilities on the rear. The most important effect you really care about is the first one, which reads, cost, rest this unit, and one of your units in the same column gains 5k until end of You can even choose itself. What's most important here is the fact that this card rests itself without any large restrictions, which will help in Thavas' condition. Then, that 5k extra mileage when playing with units that restand or gets restood through the uses of Tidal Assault, Terrific Coil, Lambros, Gambold, and even Alexandros gets doubly used so. With our alternate options out of the way, let's take a look into our G-Zone. First of all, what is a G-Zone? In layman terms, it's an extra deck, where we can toolbox alternate options to suit our current game plan. This is where our Strides and G-Guardians are, great for units that come from the future to help us. Let's start off with our Strides. We run a pair of Blue Storm, Steel Dragon, Gamble Dragon. A grade 4 Stride in Aqua Force with 15k plus power. What the 15k plus means is that you gain the power of the heart total. So 27k if your heart is Thavas, and 30k if your heart is Lambros. Gambold has 2 effects on the Vanguard Circle. On placement, you check the top 7 cards of your deck and call up to 2 of them to rear as rested. Mind you, this does not activate Nerissa's effect that when rested by an ability, since those called units weren't rested, just called as rested. Secondly, on the Vanguard Circle again, its second effect is on attack, you can counterblast 1, flip a G unit face up, then for every 2 rested rearguards you have, you can draw 1 card and retire an opponent's rearguard. Meaning for 2 rested rearguards, you draw 1, retire 1. For 4 rested rearguards, draw 2, retire 2, and so on. Then, if you drew 3 or more cards, you can stand 2 rearguards. Meaning if you have 6 rested rearguards, you get the full extent of this effect. Generally, the game plan is that Gambold is your first stride, since Thavas will give you an axial circle, getting you that 6 rearguards that you need, for the full extent of the effect. The best units to call off the top 7 are Coral Assault, Brave Shooter, then any other rearguards that are able to make profitable columns. In example, a unit that can boost since we need some tap to back row as well. If you look to restand are units that can attack strongly as well. Once again, Coral Assault comes to mind, Terrific Coil, or Pursuit Assault if you ever come. Our next stride is Marshal General of Surging Seas Alexandros. Just like Gambold, he has 15k plus power, but unlike Gambold, which I consider to be a farming stride, Alexandros is very much a finisher stride. Alexandros has one effect, but an effect that scales greatly into the late game to push for game. Alexandro also has the wave effect, which is just a restriction to which attack order the effect is active. In essence, wave 1 means it's only live on the first attack, wave 2 or 3, which Alexandros has, means that it's live on the second or third effect. So, wave 2 or 3, Alexandros has the effect that after the battle that he attacks, you can counterblast 1, flip a G unit face up, then choose 2 rearguards and stand them. Those rearguards gain 5k for each face-up card in the G-Zone deck. In the later stages of the game, this amounts to about 30k, 35k to those rearguards. Couple that with units that stand themselves, namely Tidal Assault, Terrific Coil Dragon, that 30k gets doubly used so. It's not rare to get to 8 or so face-up G units by the time you go into Alexandros, so your Tidal Assault will be swinging for 49k then 44k for example. Next up, we have Marine General of Heavenly Silk Lambros once again as a stride. Lambros is an old stride, which had a pseudo-generation break restriction within the effect itself. The effect reads, when Lambros attacks a Vanguard, if it is the 4th battle of that turn or more, you can pay the cost to Persona Flip, which means to flip a copy of itself from your G-Zone, choose up to 2 rearguards and stand them. Then, if you have 2 or more face-up G units in the G-Zone, those units gain 10k. Lambros is what I like to call a free Alexandros. At 2 face-up G units, both Alexandros and Lambros effectively achieve the same thing, but Lambros doesn't cost a counterblast. Furthermore, Lambros' restand isn't linked to face-up G units, only the power is, so Lambros still works as the first stride for restand aggression if you were denied counterblast, and Lambros also isn't restricted to strictly 4th wave, but 4th wave or more. So if you have a wide field of a bunch of restanders, you could attack with Lambros as the 5th, 6th, 7th, and not miss the timing. Next up, we have Torrent of Determination, Valuous Revive. On the Vanguard Circle, on attack, counterblast 1 and flip any G unit face up. Then you can call up to 2 cards from your hand for each face-up G-Zone that you have. Then draw cards equal to the number of cards called. Then, if you have 2 or more face-up G-Zones at that point, you choose your opponent's Vanguard and power lock it to 11,000 until end of turn. Meaning, outside of Guardians, your opponent's Vanguard cannot gain power, effectively negating damage triggers and allowing your multiple smaller attackers to be effective attackers. Generally, you go into Valio's Revive as a finisher as well. If you manage to go very wide, like make 3 Axel markers, and the cards in your hands are all like multi-small attackers, and your opponent is at like 4 or 5 damage, or into certain matchups that play larger defensive vanguards, such as MLB, being an 18k base defensively, power locking them to 11k makes it a lot harder for them to protect themselves, so to say. Our Progenitor Dragon is Progenitor Dragon of Deep Sea, Balan Arena. In order to stride into Balan Arena, we need to Persona Stride, meaning we discard the same name as our Vanguard to stride. 1 is a continuous effect, stating that it cannot be flipped face up through effects, so you can only ever have it face up after striding into it. Furthermore, once it's face up, you no longer have to pay cost to stride. Its second effect states that its second effect can be used to finish off games, depending on your hand quality. When your opponent's Guardian is placed, you can discard a grade 1 or less card to retire said Guardian. You can count how many cards in your opponent's hand, and if you have equal or more grade 1s or less, you can probably go into Battle Arena to push for game. Our last stride is our Ultimate Stride, Zero with the Dragon of Distant Sea, Megiddo. What is an Ultimate Stride? Similarly to Battle Arena, an Ultimate Stride needs a Persona Stride cost. However, what's different is when you Ultimate Stride, you gamble on the turn. At the end of your turn, if you Ultimate Strode, you remove all your G units, face up, face down, you basically turning off any Generation Break effects and such, so it's like a final gam. Megiddo's effect is when placed, you can counterblast 2 to call up to 5 cards in total from either hand or drop zone and call them to rear. Those called units then get 5k, and the ability that after the battle that it attacked, you can swap another unit onto its circle. Specifically in Aquaforce, the plan with Megiddo is to call multi-attackers or big attackers, and to keep shuffling them onto an Axel circle for another 5k buff. Units like Tidal, Coral, Pursuit, Terrific Coil, hell, even Orisa, if you're able to tap it to give it 10k as well, it's also valid. With the strides out of the way, let's hop into our G Guardians. Firstly, what is a G Guardian? A G Guardian is a unit that we call from our G zone using a heal trigger as cost to discard. These are Guardians that generally get to play around Guard Restrict as they are not called from hand. At base, they are 15k shields with bonus effects to get larger or provide some sort of utility. Our first G Guardian is Dark Element, Dismal. Dismal has 15k shield and the ability that on the Guardian Circle it has Resist, meaning it can't be retired from the Guardian Circle through various effects such as Battle in Arena or Stealth come to mind. Dismal also has the effect that when it's placed on the Guardian Circle, you can choose one of your rear guards and give it Resist, and also the ability that it can't be hit until the end of turn. Dismal is also a Cray Elemental, which means it belongs to all clans. Expect to see this unit in many decks that are rearguard centric. Our next G Guardian is Blue Storm of Deterrence Dragon, Ice Barrier Dragon. No, not that Ice Barrier Dragon, not Trishula. This Ice Barrier Dragon has the effect that on wave 1 or 4 or more, when called, gains 10k shield, making it a 25k G Guard for the first battle of the turn or the 4th or more. Our third G Guard is Guard Leader of Sky and Water, Johannes. Unlike other G Guards, Johannes is what is commonly called a flip G Guard, meaning it's locked behind Generation Break 1, and it requires you to flip another G Guard as part of its cost. Johannes' effect is, when placed, you can counterblast 1 and to flip a G Guard, then you choose up to 5 of your rear guards and give them Resist, and the effect to not be hit until the end of turn. Then, for each unit chosen, Johannes gains 5k shield, meaning at ceiling, Johannes is a 40k G Guard that also protects your precious rear guards. In my opinion, one of the best G Guards in the game. We played 2 copies because it's important for us to protect our rear guards, but also because our next G Guard has an insanely awesome effect to provide us with more G Guards to flip, if that makes sense. Anyways, to round off our G Zone, we have 2 copies of the best Aquaforce Resource Enabler. Blue Wave Armor General, Galphilia. Galphilia comes with 2 effects, the first being a Wave 2 or Wave 3 G Guard for plus 5k, making her a 20k shield. Her second effect being an Axe skill while face up in the G Zone to Soul Blast 1 and to flip herself face down, to either countercharge 1 or to flip a card on your circle face up. In essence, to unlock a rear guard if you're in a match up against Link Joker. Most times you'll be flipping Galphilia through Johannes' cost, then flipping herself face down to effectively make Johannes a free large G Guard. And that's it for the deck profile. Hopefully, after this explanation, every card choice makes sense and every card has its defined role, and you the viewer knows it like the back of your hand now. If not, Either I failed you, or you're not learning properly. But more likely than not, it's the latter, because I'm an amazing teacher. Let's get to the gameplay. So starting our first game, I'm looking to go first, obviously, so I can do the strategy now. So I'm going to call heads, because I know that card fight area is biased towards heads. Unfortunately, I called wrong and it's tails, and I will be going second. We are against Nubatama, and in our opening hand, we have Dennis, Brave Shoot, Baragios, Pashal, and Pursuit Assault. I'm thinking that we keep the grade 1s, we send back both of the triggers, and we draw a very nice curve. Between Pursuit Assault and Thavas, if somehow our opponent does not get to grade 3 first, we are actually able to do the strike denial plan. But as it is right now, it looks like we are going to go first. So our opponent writes into Katari Gitsune and basically filters for his top 5. What I'm thinking is, our deck is fairly aggressive. We don't really have to care about damage denial, especially against Nubatama. I think what's important is that to counteract Diapozon, which is what I'm expecting, most Nubatama decks nowadays are like Diapozon accompanied with Rene to try and shred your hand. We may as well call our entire hand down before they hit grade 3 to kind of like deny it. They discard Mizukaze, which is a super annoying card. Hopefully they don't have another copy in hand, but we'll draw for turn. We find our Tidal Assault a bit too early. No Nikki as well, so we don't get a free plus, but we'll ride into Baragios to draw a card, and off of Baragios' effect, we'll check the top 5 cards of our deck, and I am considering picking up this Heal Guardian here, because it will make transitioning into our late game a lot easier. It also provides us a free G-Guard. Let's grab it. We'll get rid of the Quick Shield. And nothing else to really call from hand, so we'll just go into attacks. AK at Vanguard, they don't guard it. If I get a trigger here, that'd be really nice. Boom! Crit trigger. All effects at Vanguard, nothing else to really give it to. And we'll pass it turn to our opponent. Looking at my hand right now, I don't really need any counterblast, so I'm tempted to actually throw the Heal Guardian down, give my Vanguard a 10k buff, and kind of get a free turn without taking damage, because I know that in the later stages of the game, I will be taking a lot of damage. So, he'll use the skill to counterblast 1, draw 1. 15k, the highest that he gets is 25k with a trigger, and basically infinite with an over trigger. Okay, if he gets an over trigger though, he can restand again and attack. So let's slam down the Heal Guardian. Pop 10k defensive, and no over trigger. Basically play for that line of play because over trigger is less likely to get. And we'll draw for turn, and let's go ahead and aggress. We're gonna call Dennis. We're gonna call Dennis, we're gonna call Nikki. Dennis effect. Well then. I guess you go there. We'll call Pursuit Assault. Pursuit effect. I'm gonna Soul Blast and tap itself and another unit to draw a card. I'll call the 2 Coral Assaults, because I can go Dennis first, and then both of these Coral Assaults will swing at 15k, 15k. I'm tempted to actually leave these here, because knowing that Diapozon needs to bounce and wants my field empty to be more threatening or so, and basically I don't really want cards in hand, because I kind of want my units on board. So I'm going to go with Dennis first for 9k, and then both of these Coral Assaults will now be 24k on their attack. Slams on the Heal Guardian, so this will be a no pass, but because I now have 4 rested units that are other, I'm able to have both of these attack. So we'll go 24 and 24. So he guards it both. We'll just pass it to turn back to our opponent, and based on what he rides, we can make our next decision after. he rides into Daihoza. So he'll get that triple drive off. And basically, as long as I can honestly keep my hand at a low amount, like even calling these, because Daihozan's effect only works off of normal units called, I can call these triggers down actually, and it works really nicely, unironically. So what it's looking like is, unless I find another grade 3 or the strike crit, I'm gonna have to discard both Tidal and Nikki to strike. And then off the top 7, I can maybe I can intercept with one of the Coral Assaults so I get full value off. We'll see how it goes. Calls out the Magatsu Storm as well. So the way that I think I'm going to do this, he attacks a Coral Assault for me. Yeah, I'll no guard. It's gonna use Daihozan's skill, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Gonna give us the Pursuit Assault back. That is fine. I think I will no guard here. One, two, three gets the heal trigger, so I know that he has a heal guardian now. He's also able to use Yami Shibuki to get the two schmucks out. Now, what I need to do is I definitely need to get a full field out in order to get my things going. In order to I can basically retire his entire board here. He's going to attack Coral Assault. And I think Coral Assault is a bit too important to let die, so I will actually guard the Coral Assault here. Oh! Drawing this grade 3 is interesting. I'll see what I get off the Axel Boost Circle here. So, this grade 3 gives me... So, what worries me is that Dragon Empire has naturally a lot of cards that retire. This Heal Guardian might be worth more in hand rather than to use a Stride. I plus an insane amount, so I'm actually tempted to actually overpay cost for Stride here and hold this for a G Guardian. And I think that's what I'm gonna do. We'll pay Stride for cost and we'll go into Gamble here. And activate Gambol's skill. We'll check the top 7 of our deck, and call 2 as rested. Lambros is cool. Thavas is cool. So I need something in the back here and 2 cards in the front. I'm tempted to do Narissa, since Narissa will go back into my soul for a draw. Because at this point now, I'm looking to farm some hands. So let's do Narissa as rested. And let's do Thavas as rested as well. Yeah, let's do Thavas as rested. Because I'm able to use Thavas' skill then to retire something. Boom, 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 boom. Put a normal unit back to my deck. Thavas, Baragios, Dennis. Dennis also gives me a 3+. Yeah, I'm gonna do Thavas. That is rested. I'm gonna call Pursuit Assault. Now, I think what I want to do is 1, 2. That gets me the 2 tapped. This 5k boost is kind of negligible, so I'm gonna do Pursuit Assault here. I'm gonna Soul Blast 1. Tap these 2. Draw a card. And Pursuit Assault gains 5k naturally because of that 1 Axel Circle. 1, 2, and then I can restand these 2. And basically just have this as a tapped board. I think that's fine. Let's go Pursuit Assault here. 19k to Vanguard. Pull out both of the intercepts there. Coral Assault will attack, gain its buff because of my rested board. 24, so we're looking for at least a trigger to guard. Does not get a defensive. So there's two lines of play now. I can either stand this entire column with the Coral Assault, or I can stand both Pursuit and Coral for two strong attackers. I think I'm going to go for the two strong attackers play. So I'm going to attack with Gambold, Counterblast 1. I'm going to flip up with Lambros now, since he's kind of a rendered moot. I draw 3 cards, because I have 6 rested rear units, and I can retire 3 of his rear guards, but he doesn't have 3 rear guards to retire. So we'll do that. Then, because of that, these 2 units will stand. We'll attack Vanguard here, triple drive. We don't have an overtrigger, so can't really worry about that. Let's see what our opponent does. So unless he has like a way to just like completely nuke my board, I should be okay, especially against Gilgar. I'm able to use Iskatail to just basically give my entire board exist here. So 27k into our opponent's Vanguard. Ideally, obviously getting a trigger here is good. A second heal trigger, a second copy of Thavas as well would be really nice. Even a Lambros would be really good. Unironically, if I drive like a Lambros here, I can rewrite into the Lambros, which means that a lot of his domination effects won't hit because Lambros is at 15k base. First check, second check, third check, no triggers. Not amazing, but we swing with Pursuit Assault first for 19k. And then we'll swing with Coral Assault, gaining the power again. And he goes into his G-Guard. His G-Guard will be... Rakan, choose Dominate it, move it to... Okay, so who's he going to take? Probably, he takes the Narissa. That's kind of upsetting. Okay. We can end our turn here. Think on Coral. So, we do have 2 more Corals in hand, but this Coral also works as Intercept. I'm tempted. I think we do take the draw here. No. Okay. Getting that PG does help a lot. So, we'll pass the turn back to our opponent here. And our opponent probably strides now into something scary. Unfortunately, I kind of wish that we had a way to bounce this Blessed back into hand, but we don't play the Ghost Chase for this, like, niche scenario of ripping a Blessed off the top. They stride, they are GB2, so it's possible that we just get Reneged right here. If I was to get Reneged here, I think my first card would be Ice Barrier Dragon. Alternatively, I take the first attack that has the crit, play for defensives, and this way the second attack doesn't hit. Now, if my understanding is correct, the Pursuit Assault I call off of Reneged won't gain the 5k because at the time being, Pursuit Assault, while being dominated, would belong to this player who doesn't have extra circles. So Pursuit Assault would not be a bad unit to call, so it would probably be like Pursuit Assault and Brave Shooter that I call out if I get... No, but he goes for Jokumetsu instead. Jokumetsu has the effect when it attacks to sack 2 grade zeros and turn a card face up. So he does have the Yamishibuki to get those called out. Then Jokumetsu also has a crit until end of turn. Now, end of turn is scary, because that means that overtrigger crit could occur. Discards the Sakura Fubuki. Goes into that, gets a counter charge. Falls down to Kapari Gitsune. Filters for 5. I think our first turn as Gambold already had so much tempo that even though this card, it draws 2, which is kind of big actually. Okay, so this is probably 15 to my Pursuit Assault. I'm okay with letting the Pursuit Assault die here, because I do have 2 more in hand. Yeah. Oh, think, Tony, think. Yeah, we'll let it go. I'll take the first Jakumetsu attack, and if he gets an overtrigger, I just PG that one. Using Yami Shibuki to bounce and make 2 of the grade 0s. Now, at this point, I'm also tempted to go into Gambold again to kind of wipe his board. Ooh, this is a big attack. Let's G-Guard this one. I don't have... Oh, this is second attack. I don't think I have a G-Guard big enough for this. I'll just... Oops. I'll just take it. Get the defensive. That's nice. He has, what, 3 more attacks potentially? Jakumetsu to Soul In, gain 10k, draw a card. I'm tempted to no-guard this, but I feel like... Have I seen his overtrigger yet? I don't think I've seen his overtrigger. Bounce everything, draw 2, call 2. Will he call 2? If he doesn't... Calls the Yami Shibuki, calls the Magatsu Gale. Use Magatsu Gale skill. Okay, so he's not using the Yami Shibuki skill then. Which means I think it's gonna be Alexandros next turn. What do I die to? I die to double crit. I die to double crit, so no guard. Double crit is not very likely. Unless it is, and I die here, which would be really sad. Well. Maybe I should have just PG'd. Maybe I should have PG'd because it is more likely to double crit than it is to overtrigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards in hand. If I was to slam down this PG, I'd be able to guard everything else and then go into Alexandros for game, probably. Yeah, Alexandros for game would probably cleaned it out. If not Alexandros, then probably another copy of Valios. Oh well. Learning moment. Please give me something that I can play. Let's Nubatama again. Alright. Good luck, have fun. Alright, we'll start the game off by drawing 5 here. And looking a bit better already. I have 1 tap, 2 tap. I only have 2 taps though. I think I have to dig. I need to dig for Pursuit Assault. I really need that Pursuit. Actually, I haven't opened Nikki any of these games either. Alright. I'll draw for turn, and oh, finding that extra Thavas really does make a good difference here. Let's ride, and off the top 5, no grade 3s. We'll end it there. I hope that I find a different grade 2, because I want to keep the Dennis on the board. Somehow, I would like to keep Dennis on the board. Riding into Sakura Fubuki. Going to attacks, I will no-guard this, and hopefully not take up Pseudo Assault as damage. Okay. I would have liked to find the Nikki as well. Unfortunately, we might have to aggress a bit here. I'll use Dennis' skill. Hopefully I rip Pseudo Assault or any other kind of tapping unit off the top. Rest. Tap. Ooh. Ooh. Narissa. I'm gonna Soul Blast. Restand her. Gain 10k. This is kind of nice to have randomly. So everything, I think I'll go Lambros, Dennis, Narissa. Actually, I'll put Narissa down here as well, and then we can go Dennis, Coral Assault, Narissa, and Lambros boosted. We'll pass a turn on that. So, couple things. I still need a pursuit assault. I still need a pursuit assault. Am I okay with Lambros dying? Yeah. If I find another Dennis, that's also good. Because I have 1 tap, 2 tap, then I don't have the Dennis again. So I still only have 2 taps for the turn. I need 1 more tap, so I need another copy of Dennis, Pursuit Assault, or a Nikki. Or another Thavas, even. But then I'd be out 3 Thavases. Tavai? Nurse can go, yeah. I will give you a Coral Assault. Okay, prayers. I could either Counterblast Deny. No, but I need to keep up the tempo. I do have a G-Guard. Okay, very good. Okay. Ooh, Tidal Assault off the top. We'll put that there. Narissa. Actually, no. I can't be stupid. I won't have the taps for Narissa if I do that. I even said it in the fucking card profile. I actually even said it in the card profile. Don't fucking be stupid. What sucks, though, is that I will have to call this Thavas down to get this Dry Deny, so... Let's... Thavas. Rest. And retire. And I hate to do this, but... Fuck it. And then... Cover skill, entering the battle phase. I want to keep that, actually. So we'll go into the Bros, that is Lamb. We gain 10k and a drive, and our board restands. Let's just go into attacks. I'm looking to restand this column, because this column is like kind of Fuego. I think I'm going to attack here first. I'll go Tidal Assault. Tidal Assault restands and loses 5. We'll go Tidal Assault again. At ban. $33 at ban, using skill to restand this column. Soul Blasting the Thavas, so we don't have a Thavas to re-ride into. And hopefully we find another Thavas or any other kind of stride fodder, because I don't even mind riding the Iskateo if I have to. 1, 2. Draw, second draw, front trigger. Third drive. Okay. Okay. So, end of turn. Oh, okay then. Okay then. Going into the Magatsu. Our opponent is going to ponder. I think honestly, in our situation right now, riding the Iskateo is unironically probably a good play. Riding the Iskatail, stride the Iskatail for our progenitor stride. This is gonna be like some like big brain garbage. Emphasis on garbage. Let's see what our opponent does here. Going into the battle phase, no calls, just probably attacking. Attacking the rear. Attacking the Vanguard. Fuck it, we'll take it. Oh, everything's just kind of looking good for us at the moment. Do we top deck a Thavas? We do not. Alright. So I do have a Stride Fodder, so I could go normal. How many grade 1s or less do I have? 1, 2, 3 cards. I have 3 cards. He has a PG. Tired of that card. Okay, I think we just go into Gumbold here. I think it would have been funny, but probably very ill-advised. On placement, check 7. Ooh, I do want that Thavas, but I think we just go for these 2 back row units here. So, Nerissa and Nikki. Give that a good shuffle. These 2 call as rested. Thavas skill. There's no point in Thavas skilling. I think I just go 1, 2, 3 like this. I will call over the Dennis for this though. And we'll go into battle phase here. So the Tidal Assault won't hit. I think I was just gonna let him hit at 14 and leave him rested. Yeah, so 14, leave us rested. Or, I think I do have to restand. Oh, that heal trigger was really good. Boom, boom, and then this loses power. This loses power. That doesn't do anything, but this column that we look to restand. Counterblast 1.
All glory unto
Matt.
This cannot be. It mustn't. Lord,
Matt.
my Lord.
I see, Prem.
Thank you for the subscription, Nico. Welcome back. It's so long. 1, 2, 3. Oh my god. What the, are we the best? Nico's sub power gave us triple trigger. Alright, well, somehow we managed to just fucking rip triple trigger off. GG. GG. So, that was probably one of the most high roll games of my life. We got an over trigger on our Lambros turn. Then we triple triggered on our Gembold turn. Like, obviously, unfortunately, we had to ride the Iskatail, but that is the risk that we run doing this kind of strategy. It's also probably why we do run the Iskatail. But hey, it's a grade 3. You can stride over it. If I wanted to, I could also progenitor stride. And that about wraps up the video. I do apologize that the second fight wasn't as overexplained as I had hoped. Looking back, a lot of my decision making was quieted in my head. So I do implore you to join the Discord and visit me on Twitch to ask about any plays you're confused about. I would be more than happy to welcome you and explain my thought process there. But let's go over the strengths and weaknesses together. First off, the strengths. In the scenario that you go first and have a hand strong enough to present the stride denial strategy, as well as a second Thavas for the reride, you are very, very favored to win. The amount of tempo swing whilst denying your opponent a good chance to retaliate is crazy good. B. It's deceptively tanky. Between the free calls off of Dennis and Gembold and the units that replace themselves on board such as Coral and Narissa, this deck is able to amass a large amount of hand due to the board pluses and hand pluses, leading to insane hand advantage to defend off your opponent's turn. Now the weakness is, it's fragile. There are a lot of specific pieces you need to hold, and being able to evaluate which cards to ride and which cards to hold is very important. Needing 2 copies of Thavas, as well as a set number of valid rearguards to call down for the stride effect makes the deck susceptible to early aggression. B. It's on a timer. With so many draws and so many superior calls, you run out of deck very quickly, so you're on a timer to beat your opponent before deck out occurs. This deck wins by raw tempo and aggression, but doesn't scale amazingly well into the late game outside of Alexandros. So, if your opponent is able to fend off those turns, you probably end up struggling to close out games. I think having play tested it a bit more, Thavas is a good deck for the premium format at the moment, but like I said, it might not be consistent enough to constantly get that stride denial strategy. You only go first 50% of the time, and then even then you might not be able to get all the correct pieces going first as well. That being said, the deck is insanely fun to pilot and maneuver around. There's so many hidden pluses in the deck that you'll find yourself spoiled for choice a lot of the time, and the dopamine hit of withstanding your 50k title assault with a crit on it feels amazing. In any case, that's all I've got to say about Thavas Premium in today's episode of overExplained. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all in the chat for the 3rd episode. This has been Toku from Yellowcard Vanguard. Toku out.